Although we will never know if Mulan had ever existed, or if so, whether she had really done all the great things she did in the poems, her legend is not without significance when we talk about women in ancient China. Most people, including my middle school textbook, believe the gist of the poem lied in Mulan's accomplishment and virtues, her selflessness, bravery, patriotism, etc. Many also find her admirable because she turned down the emperor's offer of wealth and power and chose to return home to her parents. While I do applaud Mulan's love for her family, I also think it's extremely naive and blatantly ignoring the historical context if you think she turned down the emperor's offers simply because she desired to return to a simple life with her family. Let's go back to the very beginning. Why do you think Mulan had to disguise herself as a man in the first place? And why didn't she reveal her true gender until she had returned from war? Because women were not allowed to serve in the military. And imagine if she was outed as a woman while serving. Or how about when she was presented before the emperor? Lying to the emperor was one of the most serious offenses you could have in ancient China. I mean, Mulan knew exactly what she had to do to conceal her gender. Would it really surprise you that she was fully aware of the possible consequences if she accepted the emperor's offers as a man who she is not? I mean, she had gone through tremendous hardship just to survive the war. Do you think she'll be so stupid to risk dying at a time of peace? She was a decorated war hero, a potential public servant who was still single. Would it really take that long before someone finds out that she's a woman? She didn't reject the emperor's offers because she did not desire them. She rejected because she had to, because she knew what might be waiting for her if she didn't. And although there was a good chance that the emperor would pardon her, because, you know, she's still a war hero, so her sin of being born as a woman can be forgiven. But why would Mulan risk it when she knew her parents were desperately waiting for her return? When we applaud Mulan for turning down wealth and power, we're ignoring the fact that this will be a completely different story if she accepted them. Because while we should respect Mulan's wishes to return home, we shouldn't pretend she lived in an era when women were free to choose what they wanted. Even someone like Mulan, who has defied almost every single gender norm of her time, was inevitably restricted by the society's expectations of what a woman should do and have. And this is why it troubles me when people praise Mulan for not wanting or for giving up what she deserves. Because women in ancient China have almost always been praised for their lack of a desire for basically anything, be it wealth, power, or sex. Even when we're presented with a brave hero like Mulan, the attention somehow still lies in her purity and the distance she willfully placed between herself and whatever her male counterparts got to enjoy. Isn't it ironic that even when Mulan has proved herself to be equally, if not more competent than men, critiques over the course of history still focus on the fact that she did what a woman had to do. Somehow, after kicking gender roles in the ass, she was known as someone who knew her position. Now, critics never really said that out loud, but imagine if Mulan did accept the emperor's offer and was later outed as a woman. Is it really that hard to imagine what future historians would say about a woman with power? Remember how Wu Renchen, the only ever female emperor in history, was demonized as a monster, a freak, and a pervert in the 1,000 years after her death, even when she had run the country pretty well. And if you say Wu Renchen was too extreme an example, I'll give you a more modest one, a story that parallels Mulan's in so many ways. And it's not a poem, so we know it did happen. Spring and Autumn Annals of the Ten Kingdoms is a history about the 10 kingdoms that existed in southern China in the 10th century, documented the story of Huang Chonggu, who was a citizen of the kingdom of former Shu. Huang Chonggu was the daughter of a former government official. She lost both her parents at a very young age, and she was a habitual crossdresser. When she was thrown in jail for a false arson charge, she wrote a poem to the head of the local government to state her innocence. And the officer, named Zhou Xiang, was impressed by her talent. She was later freed and given a government position. Huang Chonggu not only excels in literature, music, and art, she was also a very efficient and righteous public servant and was deeply respected by those who worked under her. A year later, Zhou Xiang, whose admiration for Chonggu only grew day by day, decided to marry his daughter to her. Chonggu turned down the offer and again wrote a poem to Zhou to explain her decision, in which she said, "Now that you're willing to accept me as your son-in-law, I wish heaven could immediately make me a man." Apart from the fact that this could make a terrific lesbian love story, Chonggu did use this poem to finally reveal her true identity to Zhou. And guess what happened next? Despite the fact that Zhou still deeply admired her talents, Chonggu left her position and was never heard from again. Chonggu was a good public servant. She did everything she was supposed to do for someone in her position. Yet she had to give it up, either by will or by force, simply because she is now openly a woman. She held her position for a whole year. She had plenty of chances to leave if she, wanted to, but she stayed, only to leave when she can no longer be known as a man. Nobody is ever going to convince me that Chonggu was not punished for being a woman. And going back to Mulan, she knew the only way for her to safely go back to living as a woman was to reject everything she deserved, because she knew the price would only be valid under the condition that she was a man, and will be taken away when she no longer is one. And that's why she had to turn it down before it was taken away. Disney romanticized Mulan's story for good reasons, where her fellow soldiers accepted her almost without much of a struggle when she revealed herself. I'm not saying that it was a bad change, but it does give us a false impression that Mulan's achievements have fundamentally changed the society's perception of women, when in reality it didn't. A Mulan story is radical, it's refreshing, and also incredibly inspiring, but it failed to shake the institutionalized sexism that ran in the veins of Chinese society, a society that celebrated the achievements of women as long as they posed no threat to male dominance. It still didn't stop people from demonizing women in power, or from keeping women out of military and politics, or from applauding women for knowing their position. Again, I'm not saying that Mulan shouldn't go home to her family. Her decisions should be respected. But I would like to offer an alternative reading to her legacy and point out that we shouldn't neglect the context in which Mulan made those decisions. Next time when we praise her for giving up the reward she deserves, maybe ask yourself the question, what if she wanted them? Would you call her greedy, ambitious, power-hungry? And what would have happened if she failed to keep her secret before she was safely home? This is no Disney movie after all, unlikely that she would have the same supportive friends. The textbook saved the happy part for us, but it isn't until almost 10 years later when the sad reality behind the legend became clear to me. Mulan may not have broken the glass ceiling of Asian China, but she did help make it more apparent to us and remind us that whatever social norm that forced her to live in disguise is still very much alive today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.